This is Bar9, you're listening to Bass Island and you're watching Mainframe TV.
It's such a pleasure to be here at UKF Wien with Bar9. So how are things at Bar9 Head Quarter?
Very busy at the moment, but yeah, we're progressing on quite nicely. So
Nice.
It's all going well, can't complain. I'm over here in Austria, which is all good, millions of miles away from home. So
It's snowing a lot.
it's been snowing a lot over here. It was snowing before I left, but I don't think it's going to take like it has done over here. So, it's all good.
So let's talk about your latest remix for Engine EarZ. How did that come about?
Well, we've known the Foreign Beggars for a long time, and we've known the Engine EarZ for quite a while as well. They're all sort of part of the dubstep circuit back in the UK, so everybody's friends. We met them just through doing gigs. Obviously, we did a remix for them before a few years ago, which went down really well, and they did this tune with the Engine EarZ, and they just thought that we'd sit quite nicely as a remix. So we did that, and it's gone down really, really, really bloody well, quite frankly. The thing with releases is like you do them, and then you think that they've kind of failed because you don't get an immediate, you don't get immediate, not feedback, but you don't get an immediate reaction. But it always seems to take a little bit longer. It seems to take about 6 weeks after we've produced a tune and it's been floating around for people to really be able to hear it and people to really be able to associate with it and such. And we're just starting to see that now with the Engine EarZ remix. It's been it's probably been about 6 weeks since we did it and since it's been floating around. So it's just doing really well. I'm hoping that it's kind of a circuit club dubstep track that everybody's playing. Obviously I don't want to say that it is because, But we just have to wait and see, basically. But all the feedback so far has been really good, and it goes off in a club. So I think we've fulfilled the quota from that point of view.
Absolutely. And you recently put out Before the Storm and What You're Gonna Do, 2 beautiful tracks. Is there a new Bar9 EP on the way?
Yeah, well, the plan at the moment, the plans change all the time, but the plan at the moment is that we've got these 2 tunes that have just come out, Before the Storm and What You're Going to Do. The next track's going to be, the next release is almost certainly going to be an EP, which is going to consist of the last track I played tonight, which I don't really want to name just in case anybody didn't see it. But so we've got that last tune, we've got another 3 other tunes and hopefully some remixes to come as well, so it should make a real nice package for the start of the summer. And you just have to wait and see, basically. So
Wicked. And when you sit down to make a track, what's the first thing you typically do?
boil the kettle. Boil the kettle, roll a cigarette, and then just chill with it, basically. Like, you've got to kind of just sort of, it sounds a bit, you've got to kind of be at one with the track. And I know that sounds really stupid, but you've just got to sort of chill with it and listen to the music. And, you know, when you're at the point where you're starting to hear ideas coming back off of the tune, then it's sort of time to start moving forwards with the development of said track or said remix. But rushing things never really works. You can't approach music with a, right, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, I've got to get on with some work. You've got to feel it, you know, you've really got to feel what it is you're doing, because you've got to put some emotion into it and you've got to put some hardness into it, and that doesn't necessarily come from putting hours of working or trying to make it bang. It just comes from just chilling and being at one with the tune and just relaxing and progressing forwards. Sometimes it can happen in like 10 minutes and other times it happens in 2 or 3 days. But, you know, from our point of view, the artist, it's more important that we put that time aside to make sure that the tune can be developed in time for its release date. So,
what do you use to produce?
At the moment, we're both on Logic. We've used most of them over the years. The only one we haven't really used that much is Ableton, and that's because it's kind of come to fame since we've been using Logic. At the moment, I don't initially see a reason to change software, so I'd say we're both firmly on Logic. But in the future, who knows? You know, like, people talk quite highly of Ableton Live, and you know, that's possibly something that we could look into in the future regarding a live set or whatever's necessary. Who knows? But at the moment, yeah, we're both quite comfortable using Logic Audio. Does the job. All of them do pretty much the same thing, just dependent on how much time you put into using the software to understand how it works to some extent.
Right. I read in an interview that you feel quite inspired by new styles like Moombahton and Trap. Shall we expect a Moombahton track by Bar9 soon?
No comment. I don't know, like I don't want to go off on a political tip or anything, but I'm really against this whole classification of different tempos of music. Like, we make Bar9 music, and, you know, like, preliminarily it may be subcategorized as to Moombahton based on it being a slightly slower tempo or what have you, but generally we make what we feel, and to some degree that is limited by the commercial viability of a track. But with this EP that's coming out, we're definitely hoping to show a little bit more than just dance floor bangers, because we've been doing it for a few years, and, you know, we're not adrenaline fueled junkies, you know. We are musicians at the end of the day, and we do an awful lot of other stuff that isn't just 140 or just 110 or 100. To some degree, the tempo just becomes irrelevant after a while. But yeah, certainly the EP that's coming out shortly will consist of a more wider variety of music, because that's generally where we want to take Bar9, and that's generally what we're about. We're not just underground junkies, you know. We've both been doing it for a very long time, and we're both, I'd like to class both of us as musicians. We're just into music, so who knows, we'll have to wait and see.
Can you take us to the highs and lows of production process, and do you make your own master presets?
The highs and lows of production. Well, production's a bit like bashing your head against the wall, because like I said earlier, you know, some days you can sit down for 10 minutes and you can achieve more in those 10 minutes than you've achieved in the last 3 weeks. But at the same time, if you've got a deadline approaching like that night, if you think you're going to sit down and do something in 10 minutes, then you're wrong, because it's not. It's all inversely proportional to the psychology of writing music. And like I said earlier, you've just got to chill with it. You know, like, there's no quick way to do it, there's no short way to do it, there's no right or wrong. You've just got to be at one with the parts. You've just got to understand what's going on, and sometimes that takes a lot of time. Sometimes you've just got to sit in the studio and listen to it going round and round for hours and hours. But then, like, at the end of that, when you're literally about to go home, you'll go, oh, I'll just try that, and I'll just try that, and then when you get into the studio the next day, those last 3 or 4 decisions you made will shape the track completely. And regarding master presets, not really. Like, again, we've been doing it for quite a while, and you're just kind of getting, I don't want to say you get an ear for it, but in our environment that we work in, you do get an ear for it. Like, both of us are only producers in the environment that we continuously go on to produce in. If you put us in a different room, then we'd probably have no idea. Like, you know, we're both really, really good at working with the equipment that we've got and the spaces that we've got, because they are what define the sound that you make. If you would stick us in a church or, like, you know, even like a multi-million-pound studio, we generally have no idea for the first couple of days. And I think that's kind of the case for most producers out there. The general goal is, as a master, is to get it about as loud as you can. I know that conflicts with all sorts of loudness war politics that are in place, but if you want to make it cut through in a nightclub, then you generally need to make it as absolutely loud as you can, without impacting on the musical dynamics of the piece that you're processing at that time.
Well, last question. How did you get your very first signing?
You know what? For us, it was a really long road. Like, back in 2005 or 6, we won a production contest. We were supposed to win a recording deal out of that, and it kind of panned out and it kind of didn't. But that was like the beginning of the road. Once you've had like a bit of a taste of doing it properly, you're not going to give up, because you've put so much time and effort into it at that point that it has to work. So yeah, we won the competition. That didn't really pan out. That was when we were making a different type of music, and then suddenly dubstep started to become quite popular, and we started going to all these parties around our areas that were playing dubstep, and they were just absolutely off the hook. You turn up at a house party and there'd be like 300 or 400 people there, and the police would come and close it down, and everyone was going off to dubstep. So we started making dubstep pretty much for the effect of playing at these parties that were going on locally. And then through that, we met a guy locally called Rob Sparks, who's on audio, or used to be on Audio Freaks and Z Audio like ourselves. He lived locally to us. He hooked us up with the guy that runs Z Audio and Audio Freaks. And from there, it's just kind of run on. And here we are now, several years later, in Vienna. It's all good, can't complain. So, wonderful, yeah.
Great, so thank you very much.
Not a problem, thoroughly enjoyed it.